Censure of no consequence and of no purpose. Another day of hysterics and pearl clutching in Congress. Author's notes. This is more of a rant on the decline of our politicians and the state of what passes for political debate in the House of Representatives. The decline in the quality of our political class is startling and makes us all wonder how all this happened. A good question that I have thoughts on, but that is for another day. For now, on with the rant. Congress has an approval rating of 20%, and after watching the censuring of Representative Rashida Tlaib, most Americans would probably be surprised it was that high. November 7, 2023, the House of Representatives debated her censuring, and it was one of the sorriest displays on how much the quality of the so-called American leaders has declined over the 30 years. The hysterics that were on display on both sides were emblematic, where emotions and grandstanding has replaced thought and rhetoric to convince others of the superiority of one's ideas. The emotionalism is already an issue in U.S. politics in this polarizing country, and the members of Congress are just making it worse by their behavior. The House of Representatives is not the only part of the federal government that has credibility issues. There are books that can be written about the Senate, the presidency, the judiciary, and the bureaucracy, but for now, the topic will be the House. The House of Representatives, by design, is closer to the people with smaller districts and elections every 2 years, so is expected to be a little unruly at times. There is a difference between being unruly and being childish, and the censure of Rashida Tlaib was childishness on full display. Representative Tlaib is a reprehensible character who can barely disguise her despise of Israelis and Jews, and is clear where she stands on Israel's right to exist. She also led a protest in the Capitol Hill complex and occupied it to disrupt Congress. The censure yesterday was about her statements about Israel and the Jews since the conflict of October 7th. It was not about her serious roles in the incitement, disrupting Congress, or threats. It was about her statements, which seem to fall under protected speech, even if it's unpopular. The censure also carried no punishment, so it was just a hysteric display to be broadcasted. What she should have been censured for, possibly expelled, was her role leading the protests in the Capitol. But the Republicans chose not to take that route and chose the easier censure that had no punishment. The question to be asked is if the Republicans were not going to punish her for the protests in the Capitol or for incitement, which were valid charges, what was the point of the entire exercise? On the other side, why was Tlaib, who is a lawyer and should be able to create a rational argument, was in absolute hysterics as she mowed down one straw man argument after another for something that has no punishment? It was basically a display where both sides of the argument were able to spend a day yelling hysterically at each other for what purpose? To create a masturbatory display for the media and networks for their audiences? It was a display of weak will on one side and faux outrage on the other, and peppered with Joe Buck's mealy-mouthed excuse that boiled down to how he stood on both sides and no one's side at the same time. This is what passes for governance now. Is the joke on us? Do they go back to their offices and have drinks together and yuck it up about another day of conducting the three-ring circus and raking in favors from K Street? Or are they really this fragile and shallow people? Which is worse? Because it all seem to be equally plausible and equally bad in a country that's involved in 2 proxy wars, $33 trillion in debt, open borders, drug crisis, crime in major cities, and a social fabric that is being torn apart by people that are supposed to be leaders but seem to be more interested in pouring gas on the fire at worst or walking by and whistling as the house burns down at best. Admittedly, this writing is hyperbolic and over the top, but watching that display yesterday created more anger for most people and resolved nothing. No consequences, no self-reflection, just another day in Congress. Yes, there are elected officials who want to make the country better and may have honest disagreements on how to do that. But those voices are not getting noticed in another Instagram or TikTok moment in the halls of Congress. We deserve better from our government.